Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and work and fun don't mix. Unless you're a clown. So, the day before yesterday, I did a live stream, and I've started doing those. And if you haven't dropped by to check one out, maybe you should. All it really is I'm doing Cardboard Slayer with different knives to see how they hold up, and I'm shooting the breeze with you guys. And I think I've done 3 of them so far, and they've been a lot of fun. We're just shooting the breeze on whatever comes up while we're talking movies, TV, music, just whatever happens organically. I have had a blast with it. The guys that show up regularly seem to be enjoying it, so maybe drop by and check one out when it pops up. They're not super regularly scheduled, just when I've got time. But the last one we did was this vintage Buck 110 from 1980 to 1981. And what had happened was the first one I did was 3CR13 on a cheap eBay knife just to see how the rainbow anodizing holds up, and we found out the edge held out for about 3 hours of cutting cardboard, and I was able to strop it back to life, which was impressive. The next one we did was an old 2007 440 knife, branded by Winchester, sold through Walmart, and that was from 2007, and that steel held up okay. Not as good as the 3CR, not as good as this one. Just trying to see if my complaints about old steel were valid. So this one, let's see if I can do the reverse flick on this. Yeah, so I can flick this open on camera. When I'm off camera, I can't get that flick. But my uncle loosened the blade like crazy so that he could flick it open like that whenever he pulled it out of his pocket. The problem with that, let's see if you can hear it, is it introduced a ton of blade play. But the goal here was to test out Buck's legendary heat treatment, and having something vintage made that exactly the test I needed it to be. And I took it into the shop. I threw it through the work sharp with the Ken Onion blade grinding attachment, sharpened it on the slack belt until I got to the finest belt and spent extra time on that. And I took it to the buffing wheel of terror and hit it with the gray compound and then stropped the life out of it. And I got a really, really mirrored edge on this thing. And it shaved easier than anything I've had before when it got done, and it just went through the paper like it was water before I started. And through 2.5 hours of cutting, it got to a point where I could strop it back to life for the most part. Again, 2.5 hours of cutting and talking, and we had a lot of fun with that. But, you know, it can, it still does that. And if I can get a good close-up on this, it's not the cleanest cut in the world. It's a little fuzzy. It was a little bit loud, but that was 2.5 hours of cardboard, and that was turning some of it sideways going against the grain, and I got into some stuff that was incredibly tough to cut. And that wasn't the knife's fault. That whole time, the cutting geometry really showed itself off. It just kind of blazed through the cardboard. Nice, clean, easy, effortless cuts. The one thing that surprised me the most while I was doing this, like I expected the steel to hold up all right. But in the hand for 2.5 hours of pushing, by the end of that 2.5 hours, it still felt like I'd just picked it up. Incredibly comfortable, and I didn't think that was going to happen quite like that because this is a very square, blocky handle. I thought it would hotspot right here a good bit, but no problems whatsoever. I was thoroughly surprised by it, and I'm quite happy to see that. And I mean, it did fantastic. And, you know, I really can't complain about that. It's just, you know, the edge held up. And this is a heat treatment on Buck. And let's see. Focus. So you can see 3 dots, 1 on the left and 2 on the right. That's the date code stamp for 1980 to 1981. That's how I know where this came from and when it came from. And it belonged to my uncle before he passed away, like I said. And this is one that I would carry, but the way he loosened it up, it flops open like this quite a bit. Like, there's no pull until you get to about here. And I'm not having that partially deploy and then, you know, stabbing myself while I'm getting it out of my pocket. This does kind of lead me to want a newer, more updated version, possibly the Buck 110 automatic, which I'll get around to that eventually. A pocket clip would be a big plus because that's how I carry things, but yeah, I am thoroughly impressed by this thing. It did absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, I really, really enjoyed cutting with it. And, you know, I can't say enough good things about it. I understand, like, when I was younger and I've always kind of been into pocket knives in the I love carrying a knife sense, but I haven't always had them because of monetary issues. But when I saw when I heard what Buck 10's reputation was and how durable they were reported to be, it's like I want one of those. But I never had enough money to really throw at that. And as an addendum, I've said it before, but I wasn't in a place where you could really buy knives easily. Like I had access to Walmart. That was pretty much it. And way back when you had to go to a knife shop to find anything that wasn't basically the garbage Walmart had at that point in time. So I never had one of these until my uncle passed away, and I didn't know that I had this until I went through that video about knives that I'm sentimental about. So I have this one. I enjoyed playing with it, and I was going to make another point, and my brain just wandered off somewhere else during that tangent, and that's okay. So, like I said, I will probably get a new one later, and it's probably going to be the 110 automatic whenever I get a chance to, but yeah, this thing thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly impressed me. I understand the reputation. I get it now. Good Lord, this thing was great. So, I just wanted to share that, wanted to share my experience, show this thing off a little bit, and, that vintage heat treatment on the steel, oh boy, that's pretty good. You can kind of tell the difference between the heat treatment then and the heat treatment now. I've talked about that. The heat treatment's dialed in, it's perfected. They're able to heat treat these things in massive batches and have pretty much perfect heat treatment throughout that entire batch. And these guys are all buying their steel from the same places with the same heat treatment. So, things have gotten better for knife guys. But compared to the 440 that I got used to dealing with back then, and this is night and day. If I would have gotten a hold of one of these and played with this and saw how well it held up, oh my God, I would have turned my nose up at so many of the other things that I had my hands on back then. So, again, I wanted to show this thing off. Thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys keep coming in. It's awesome. I am so grateful. It's very humbling. We are pushing towards 1,000. We're getting there. Once we hit 1,000, I've got the knife that I've picked out for a giveaway just sitting and waiting on it. But yeah, all that being said, y'all have a nice day.